Hello everyone, in this program for SBI PO 2019 interviews. Even before you started watching this, there were some homeworks to be done. I'm quite sure you would have followed us on our Facebook group where Ratnava sir has given you a long post where he expected you to do few things before you come to these sessions. I hope you have done that. You have watched the basics of personality development, complete module by Ratnava sir, what GDPI process is all about. There are, I think, couple of videos by Abhishek sir. There's an entire playlist there where we have everything that we have done before this is there. So I hope you have gone through that. You have extracted maximum benefit out of it. Not just that, there was list of personal questions which we expected you to practice. How we wanted you to do that. Look at the question. Look at the model answers. Now I shouldn't say the model answer, but the answers that various people have written. Some of them are fellow aspirants like you. There are many who are the selected ones. So read, get inspired, get feedback from them, get feedback from your mentors, get that coherent story about yourself. Yeah, that was the expectation. And then when you watch these sessions, it'll really benefit you. Some 4 or 5 videos we have already released for you. I hope you would understand. All those who have seen these videos after having gone through those basics will definitely be deriving more benefit compared to someone who is just watching us demonstrate the process of interview. There is a lot of hard work to be done before getting till that place. I hope you will understand that. And then you will understand the nuances. Then when you have worked on your answers, you will be able to appreciate it better. That was the idea. That was the entire flow. What we intend to do in this program, if you ask me, this is again covered comprehensively in the Facebook group, in the session descriptions of these videos that we are releasing for you under this program. We have told you what we want to do. But still, let's keep our expectations clear. What we plan to do is do some 15-20 sessions. Please note, these are edited and enhanced sessions done from the live session that we did for IBPS PO aspirants almost 8 9 months back. Yes, to this we will add some important current issue. This session is going to be one such session. Okay, and you can get the detail in the Facebook post in the session description here. Rest everything will be mentioned there. Yeah, if you want to get the links, etc., it's all there. Okay. Now, I understand, I have already read a couple of comments about the voice quality and picture quality. Please try to understand. We are doing it for you because you needed this content. We had already taken this out. We did not even want it to be on the public platform. But not just that, we have worked on this these videos that we are doing for you for almost 200 hours. 200 man hours is already been put to edit those videos to enhance the voice quality. If you will see that they were at times low because of the mic, it was done under huge paucity of time. You have to understand that. Again, there also student wanted us to do something for them, and then we just kind of arranged made say a desi arrangement, and then we just did it. So yes, we understand the picture quality and the voice quality will be issues at places. We have tried our level best to edit them, enhance them. You can be assured about the content. We can bet that you will not get a better content than what we are giving you, and followed it with everything right from the basic we have built. You nowhere ever you will find a disconnect in the content that we are asked you to do as homework and then what we are showing you here. So it's a coherent content. Just bear with us on the voice quality and picture quality. And the third, which has not yet come, but I am again preempting you there because the current issues discussed here were the current issues of 8 9 months back. Please try to understand, we are not giving you model answers here. We are teaching you ways to handle interview, right? So what is the takeaway from those current affairs? The old current affairs is also how the questions are framed by the interviewers. How is it getting connected with my profile? At to what depth he's trying to gauge my knowledge, and then how do I answer? To what level of my performance will be rated satisfactory? To what is must know and what is good to know, and what is really very pleasant for the interviewers if I come across as so knowledgeable a candidate. So all that is discussed there. Please use it to understand the process of interview, to understand how a candidate get tested in the interview for the current affairs. Yeah, this session, what I'm doing today with you, of course I'm giving the brief background etc. Here is one such current affair, which is the current affairs, right, that I will be handling for you here. But I hope you will understand, you will bear with us on the voice and the picture quality and the relevance part. What is the takeaway there, how questions are framed, and how do we handle them. Okay, so having set the expectation clear, let me begin with our session today. I'm quite sure you all will agree this would be the most important topic for anyone who is going to take interviews in say next 10-15 days, and that's the latest merger of public sector bank. So what kinds of questions, what kind of questions can be expected? Generally, in current affair, if you ask me, there will be three types. One will be fact based, and then do you understand that fact? What is the rationale, etc. And finally, you will be asked about your opinion. What do you think about this process? Was this done with some ulterior motive? Is it really beneficial for the economy? How is things going to improve? All that, is it good? Is it bad? Who is suffering? Who is benefiting? uh, what is there in it for who? Yeah, so that's your opinion based understanding. Again, what was the rationale behind doing it, how things will, what is the history of any merger, etc. All those I hope you understand. So for any current affair, these three, I can always break down those topics in these three at least. Yeah, the fact itself, the current affair, what has happened, do I understand that topic, what is happening, and then what is my opinion about it. Okay, so let me just get started with the merger part. What happened? The factual. Yeah. So what happened? Let me just move out of the screen here. And let me show you what has happened. 10 public sector banks have merged into 4 large ones. Yeah, I'm quite sure all of you are aware of it, right? And I'll also show you what you don't really expect to remember. All these numbers you see that I have put down, the 70. These are the banks. Every bank, what is the government stake. Yeah, so you really don't have to remember, but you will see a ballpark figure around 70 to 85%, and some places even 90% is the bank stake in the government stakes in these merged bank. Now what is expected is you should know what 4 anchor banks are and what are these 10 banks which have gone under this process. So the merger of bank, the process has happened in Punjab's ICU. Just remember that. Okay. So Punjab is Punjab National Bank. ICU stands for Indian Bank, Canara Bank, and Union Bank. Okay. I hope you will always remember that. Where has the merger of the bank is happened in an ICU of a Punjab state, right? You just remember that. You know the 4 banks which are playing the anchor role. Now, what we have to also learn is what are the banks getting merged. So, Punjab has always had orientation of being united. Yeah, most of our armed forces also, they defend our border. So, Punjab has orientation to keep the country united, right? Like that, you can just remember the Punjab Oriental Bank of Commerce and United Bank. Okay, we had the non-residential Indians coming at Allahabad during the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, right? So it is Prayagraj, but yeah, so Indians came to Allahabad. Just remember that. Okay. Now there is a syndicate. Syndicate is group of people, right? So there is group of people now capturing all the information using camera. So there is a camera syndicate going everywhere. Yeah, just remember like that. I'm just making mnemonics. Anything which works, please try to understand. This question is not something which will come as your multiple choice, right? This will be asked to you under stress situation when 4 or 5 very senior people will be staring down at you, and you will be sitting here in certain amount of pressure. So all you have to do is, if you've just read it once, your 95% chances, okay, how do I calculate 95? Leave it, but there are high chances that you will fumble on it if you haven't practiced it, if you do not have a mnemonic to recall it. So you should make your own mnemonic, but it should be recalled. Under, if I wake you up at 12 o'clock, if I ask you which banks were merged with the Union Bank of India, you should be able to tell me. All these 10 banks, name you should know individually, which four are the anchor bank and which banks getting merged there. You should know it. This is one of the most probable question which can get asked. Okay, we haven't proceeded in the session, but this is very, very important. Please try to remember that. Union Bank of India. Okay, so Union and HRA are cooperating. So and HRA is like Andhra. Okay, that's a little complicated, but anything that comes to your mind, yeah. So Union and HRA are cooperating. Yeah. So just imagine like that. Yeah. So you now have basically all these four anchor banks and their associate. I'm quite sure you would have also learned by your method. If you haven't, please ensure you do make your own mnemonic if you don't like mine, but it should be easily recallable under stress. So Punjab has orientation to keep India united. Indians met at Allahabad. There is a camera syndicate going capturing all the information, and Union and HRA have cooperated to come to some resolution. Okay, anything that is you feel is better, do it. Yeah, these numbers honestly, this is very high level. If your interview they ask you about the CASA ratio and your net NPL etc., your interview is going on very well. Yeah, for say level 5 questions you can look at them, but yeah, only after you have done the basics right. Okay, so these kind of information you can leave, but again just look at the ballpark figures here. Your the CASA ratios are in and around 40% here, 30% here, 35 40% here, 36 to 30. So before merger and post merger what will happen, that is the snapshot. This is for additional information. Even if you don't read this, I do not have any problem. Okay, but I hope you have done the basic part. You will now remember all the names of the anchor bank on the merged bank. Okay, so here again now moving towards the fact itself, some history can also be asked. Who proposed the idea of merger? Since when are we seeing mergers? How many previous mergers are there? Do you remember or recall any recent merger? All these will be fact based, right? So let's look at them. Let's try to understand. Mergers are not new. Even before what I have mentioned here, since 1998, what happened from the second Narsimhan committee, even before that, even just after the independence, even during 1960s we had merger, but these mergers were basically, okay, let me sorry just move out here. These mergers were basically to save the failing banks, right? But since 98, after Nasimhan committee, he had this idea of segregating the bank. There should be three very large banks with international presence, right? 8 to 10 national level bank and large number of regional and local bank is what Mr. Narsimhan had thought about, and he suggested. One of the pioneers, one of the greatest mind in field of banking, I would say. Yeah, the only person who rose up the rank of the RBI to become the RBI governor. I hope you know all about him. And then PJ Naik committee was a recent one in 2014, which suggested the banks either merge or become privatized. Yeah, that's the only solution because of lot of problems. We will read the history of bank, which I will suggest you to go through all the lessons that we have done already, which we expected you. The playlist which I talked about in the beginning of the session, if you have gone through that, you will appreciate what I am telling here. So PJ Naik committee again said either merge or get privatized. That's how desperate he was looking at the situation at that time. The NPA ratios, etc. Then 2017 again under Arun Jaitley, they talked about alternative mechanism. It was headed by finance minister, which I just told you was Arun Jaitley. He wanted to again talk about the mergers. Why? Because the major problem here was NPAs, the rising NPAs here. They really did not have any clue. We'll discuss in detail what happened with these small banks, and then what could have been done to save, and what will these steps really benefit our economy or not. And then even economic survey pointed out the failures of bank to provide credit. Once you have NPA, please note, if you have watched the previous lesson, there is erosion of capital. If your capital goes down, no matter how much deposit you are, only certain percentage of capital you can go and then lend out. Yeah, that will become your asset. Rest, all the money which is deposited with you is nothing but your liability. You are paying interest on that. It's cost. Okay, I hope you get the point here. Right now, again I talked about the history. Now I told you even before these Narsimhan committee and PJ Naik committee, or the alternative mechanism, we had mergers in even in 1960 when banks were merged to save them, the failing banks. But now, in the recent example, the big ones, you would have definitely, you are going and preparing for the SBI PO interview, so you should know everything about the SBI history and SBI's merger. Yes, this again becomes relevant now. So SBI is the one which started it. Say systematically, what happened was it was started in, they thought about making SBI a large bank, and its subsidiaries were supposed to be merged. Started with Bank of Saurashtra in 2008. 9 Bank of Indore also got merged. Following a merger process, the remaining 5 were also merged, and it took a lot of time. So you had that understanding, you had difficulty, you talked about it, you kind of say had brainstorming sessions, etc. You discussed the pros and cons, and then finally it was decided, no, let's get ahead and merge all these and make a global entity. And that's why the 5 remaining associate bank along with Bharatiya Mahila Bank, they were merged by the 1st of April 2017. This date becomes very important again. So following the success of SBI, what we try to now experiment with Bank of Baroda. So there were 2 other small banks, Dena Bank and Vijaya Bank, which we consolidated with Bank of Baroda. If you'll see again these dates, they are very interesting. 17th September, it started, the proposal started. For the current process, it's almost 30th August when Nirmala Sitharaman has announced that. And if you will see, the merger etc. came into effect from 1st April 2019. So you can expect even this to happen by 1st April 2020. Yeah, that is the expected timeline. Let's see when it happens. But we really don't have to remember these kind of detail. Under the merger, the Dena Bank and Vijaya Bank shareholder receive 110 to 402 equity. Not really required. All you wanted to remember was which bank, yeah, when the proposal came in, finally till when the process completed, and then what was the new pecking order. So Bank of Baroda became the 3rd largest bank after State Bank and HDFC. Right now, with this merger, I'm quite sure you will read. You would have already read that again the pecking order will change. So the first part is done here, where we have seen the historical fact, the mergers which have happened previously, why they have happened, the committee's recommendation, all that, and what has happened in this merger, the anchor bank, we remember the consolidated bank, all that is done. Now, moving forward, we have to go to the understanding part. Why? Why has this happened? Yeah. So let's look. Okay. So what is our FM's take on it? Try to understand. If you remember her budget speech, it was explicitly mentioned that she wants to make our economy a 5 trillion economy. And for that, it is her understanding that we need strong banks, which is correct. Why do we need strong banks for a 5 trillion economy? We'll have to again understand a little bit of economics, which is very simple. Banks act as intermediary. What they do, they absorb the capital, or they take the money from people who have excess, and they give it to people who need money now, as loan. And these guys, when they work, they repay that money with interest, and that interest get paid to the people who initially deposited the money. There is a differential in these interest rate, and that is the profit which the banks make. So do you understand the process? There is a person who is depositing the money, who does not need it now. He is also getting some interest later. This bank, which is acting as the intermediary, will give it to someone who is in need, who does not have money now, but who is expected to work hard, earn money, and return it with interest to the bank, which will be further given to the people who had deposited it in the first place. Right? That's the entire working of the bank. That's how banks act as an intermediary. So they collect excess cash and they give to people in need, both to the consumer. Suppose I want say an AC in my house, a fridge in my house. I do not earn enough today, but I expect over the years I'll earn enough so I can get an EMI. I can buy a house on an EMI. What is that? Banks give me the money which they have collected from someone else, expecting me to repay not just the principal but the interest, of which a part will be earned, will be the income of the bank, and the part will be returned to the people who had foregone to use that money in the current say time in which they gave it to someone else along with the interest. That's part of the economy. You understand this, most of it is what is happening here will be very clear. So now these banks, if they are not strong, I hope you remember, if you have done the basic videos, you will also understand if there are NPAs. What are non-performing assets? Because your loans given by the bank are assets. If they start non-performing, that means people did not return the money or did not pay interest in time with certain time limit with the definition of NPA, they are classified as non-performing. And if that happens, there has to be provision made in the bank. Again, this is detail which is covered in the RBI lectures. These were things that you are expected to know. If you haven't done that, it will be a little difficult to understand this part, but yes, you will still understand the gist. So these uh, provisioning will lead to capital erosion, because this will be directly hitting your balance sheet here, and then the provisioning here, a part of it you will provision in the balance sheet, a part of it will be taken here as loss in your P&L, and then your profit subsequently reduces. It has direct impact on your capital. Now, since this because of this capital erosion, your ability to lend also goes down. Why does that happen? It does not matter how much money you have as deposit. That's not capital. Capital is the founder's money. The government here, the stake owner, the profit that you have accumulated over the year, that is the capital. A certain percentage of it is only you can lend, and certain of it you have to always have. So it does not matter if I had only say 1,000 rupees of capital, even if I had lakh rupee of say deposit, I cannot lend them. It will be basis my capital. That calculation is done basis my capital and not basis how much deposit I have. And that is why you keep hearing the government infusing capital so that lending can start. It is not that all the money that the government gives that gets circulated in the economy. Basis, they have money, but they do not have power to circulate. All those Basel III norms, etc., are those hindering. Of course, that is for the benefit of the bank only, but I hope you get the gist. So NPL leads to capital erosion. Because of that capital erosion, bank's lending ability goes down. Yeah. So you need stronger bank. If we have stronger bank, their capital will be large, and hence they will be able to go out and lend more. That is the idea. So I hope you get the gist. I'll be discussing it in much greater detail, don't worry. I'll see to it it's drilled down. Okay, so again, all the same, please remember this part in the green. If you look at this, the business size here, the PSB rank by the size, and the CBS, yeah, this will come again. Just look at it carefully. Okay, so now if you will see the new pecking order that I was talking about, the Punjab National Bank. Punjab National Bank has orientation to keep India united. Remember that, you will never forget it. So Oriental Bank, and United Bank, this becomes the second largest bank now in our country, right? So this is something which should be there. All these new pecking order also you should know, which is the now is the second largest bank. Clearly you should know it's Punjab National Bank. Okay. So moving forward now, why this has happened? Yeah. So okay, let me just move out from here. Okay, so I've summarized the why for you here. I've already talked about this 5 trillion budget announcement. This is one of the reason why we need those strong banks. In fact, Nirmala Sitharaman has used the term next generation bank, having this global reach and national presence, the world-sized bank she is talking about, improving operating efficiencies. This will help us lower lending costs. Clearly, you remember the banks operate on the margin on which it pays to the depositor versus what it takes from the person who is taking the loan, right? So if I can reduce my cost, I can start lending to this person at a better rate. Let's show you with an example. This 10 rupees which I take now, I give 10% interest rate to the person who is depositing it. So I'll pay him back 11. But now what I'll do, I'll loan this amount at say 10 and 20% interest rate. So this guy will have to pay me 12 rupees. So what I do, I'll pass on this 11, one I'll keep for my expenses and working. But if I can reduce my cost, I can also lend the same money to this person. Instead of 12 rupees, I can lend it at 11 rupees 50 paise also. Can't I do that? So if I'm able to cut down my cost, my customer here who is taking loan from me will get benefit. Yeah. So these mergers are expected to improve operational efficiencies. Of course, governance and accountability has to be brought in, right? So more autonomy, but with responsibility, right? Facilitate effective monitoring, less the numbers, monitoring 10 banks versus 4 banks, which will be easier, right? Then comes ability to absorb shock. This is very interesting, yeah? So what it is saying, if I have already explained you about the erosion of capital here. So if a bank which had say 100 as the capital, if it gives say 100 rupees and nothing comes out, his entire capital gets eroded, and even if it has deposits further, he'll not be able to lend, right? Because of the Basel 3 requirements, right? I hope you remember that. Now, if my bank's capital size is 1000, the same 100 rupee will loss will not impact me that much. For this, it meant closure of the bank, but here it is, of course, a setback. But I can continue to loan to the other entities, make profit, yeah, and then maybe even cover up this loss. So ability to absorb shock increases if I have larger capital, right? If my book size is large, if I have a lot of capital that I can play on. But these smaller ones, they really had difficult time. Every time you kept hearing about some capital infusion by the government, right? Second point, again, it's very interesting. This will keep coming again and again. Raise money independently from market. Now, since you have that large book size, you will not look at your father for money now, which is the government. You will be able to raise money from the market on your own, domestically, internationally, if you have that reputation, if you are, perfectly maintaining your books, and if it is seen that yes, you can generate profit, you will you will develop your own reputation and can get money from the market. People will be willing to back you if your operation is good. And then you will not have to depend upon the taxpayers' money, right? So that is the entire idea. Okay, let me show you some causal relationships now. I really like it. I personally like it. It helps me understand the functioning of the economy. Let's see, if it also helps you understand the concepts better. So you have seen that this is the expectation that the operational efficiency will improve. Yeah, we'll also discuss how that will improve, but we have seen this will lower cost, and I have shown you how lower cost of operation of these banks will lead to lower lending rate. Since I am able to run my operation at lesser say cost, I'll be able to pass that benefit to my customers in form of lesser interest rate. This will lead to higher credit growth. Why? Because if someone was, if X people were taking money from me at 20%, at 10%, if I'm charging them 10%, this will be definitely greater than X for sure. Yeah, that's how the economy functions, right? So at lesser cost, there will be more demand for the good, right? Here, what is the good? That's the loan. So will lead to higher consumption. What if, why is the higher credit leading to higher consumption? Again, it's commonsensical. What is credit at first place? This is people borrowing money to satisfy their current need, assuming they will work in future and repay with interest to the people from whom they have borrowed, right? So the entire idea of taking loan is to satisfy the current need, some consumption, some need has to be met at that time, right? So higher the consumption, it will lead to higher economy. In economy, what are the terms? The consumption, the investment, the government spending, and the net of export are the function of your measure of the value of the economy. Okay, that was one part of it. What is the second part of it? Is the increase of operational efficiency again leads to lower cost, lower lending rate. What is this leading to? One was the high credit growth, but high credit not just for individual customers but also for the companies. Why? Because at lesser rate now companies can plan to expand. Yeah, they can plan to hire more, they can plan to set up new machineries, right? So all that can happen. Higher investment by the companies can also drive the economy further. This I is also there, right? In this signex that I just wrote, the investment part is also there. Not just that, it has again effect of creating more jobs. These jobs created, this will give people more purchasing power, they will earn money, they will again consume, and again lead to our 5 trillion economy our aim of 5 trillion economy. So do you understand how the economy works? I've given you a brief snapshot. I've discussed it in detail in the videos that we asked you. You were supposed to have already watched, but I'm again kind of revising the concepts for you. Now, okay, this is interesting question. Did NP have a role in consolidation? Interestingly, if you read any article, if you listen to any of these bankers talk or our FM talk or finance secretary talk, they are not even touching on this topic. They are, I think we have had enough of NPN problem, and we have understood that resolving NPA by capital infusion and all those methods that we have tried has really not worked, and this is a drastic step, though not explicitly said or written anywhere, but I personally feel it has been. Otherwise, if you will see, all the bank's combination is such that there is always a bank which was reeling with higher NPAs and then merged with someone which had lesser NPA. There are other considerations also which will come when we talk about the understanding in a little greater detail. But here, if you look at, we cannot now become an ostrich and put our head in the sand. 7.9 lakh crore, right? So this consolidation had something to do with the NPA, again corroborated by the fact that it needs some capital infusion. If the NPA was not the reason and only other factors were the reason, then why did you need to infuse capital? If we were in healthy state, the current state of the banks could have still given us some growth. Yes, you can argue that these capital that is now currently infused is not just to make that Basel III requirement or about capital adequacy, but about pushing the economy for an accelerated growth. Okay, I'll buy that logic, but look at this number, 7.9 lakh crore. Nowhere talked about, so don't get into a heated argument there. Just read about the banks also, how much NPS, etc. were there, but they have not talked about it. I'll show you on this slide what is the, again, I love this causal relationship, and I'll give you the picture of the economy as it stands today. Okay, a part of it we have already done. NPA, I told you how this is discussed in detail in the say prerequisite videos. It leads to capital erosion. Just understand their lending capacity gets reduced because of the higher NPAs. Now, this will, if my lending capacity is reduced, like when the stronger banks are likely to increase their lending capacity, will have higher credit growth. Now, reduced lending capacity means what? Reduced credit growth, weakening of economy. That is what we are seeing. Reduced capital erosion makes government to infuse capital. Yeah, increase the lending capacity to accelerate credit growth. This is what generally happens. But how has government put it? Is say it needs stronger bank along with government's infused capital. I don't know for how long. There are speculation. I'll come back to this for how long very soon. This will lead to increased lending capacity, accelerate credit growth, and we will hit our target of 5 trillion economy. Again, this credit growth on both from the consumer perspective and also from the industry perspective. I have already explained it in my previous slide. So instead of starting from NPA, they are talking about stronger bank. It's just changing, the say reference mark here. But I hope now, having seen the video till here, you will understand what is happening in the economy. Now, I told you for how long. Yeah, this is very interesting. Why they are merging these banks, if you will see, again, there is a good rationale. With these four anchor banks, they have sufficient capital. They are all larger than what is getting assimilated here, right? So what happens now going forward, bank will say now after this consolidation, your size has increased, go and find your own capital. That is the rationale also. Remember that ability to absorb shock and ability to raise money independently, so that government does not keep infusing capital. And you see, it's already begging RBI said, beg, borrow, steal. I don't know what you will like to say about this 1.7 lakh crore rupees that it has taken from RBI, and there is so much halla gulla about it. So it does not want to spend all this money in capital infusion. Modi ji has to do a lot of social services, lot of schemes need to be implemented, and this is not how he wants to spend money in when nobody gets the credit for NPA. It's only bad name everywhere, right? Though we'll come to why that NPA also comes. But yes, there are other better things to do than to just take care of NPA. So now, going forward, when these banks have become large, their capital have increased, these lesser performing banks have merged where a lot of money, there is no other way for these banks to survive. They need infusion, or these merged banks will slowly collapse. Yeah, and being in a setup that we cannot let our banks collapse. So government will continue to infuse money, and that is something that they do not want to do. So you see the master stroke here. You talk about creating wall size bank, etc. And what you're actually doing, the government is also doing at the same time, is getting rid of this continuous capital infusion that it was forced to do. Yeah, are you able to understand? Now the larger, the better banks will bear the brunt, and they will have to, okay, either mend the ways of these amalgamated banks, or they will have to, face the consequences. They will have to borrow from the market. The size is such that the government feels they will not collapse. Of course, they are there as the backup, but now अब इनके माथे पर नहीं फूटेगा. Bank problem will not come to government. That is the bigger picture here. Yeah, that was the need for creating the stronger bank. Okay, now all that story that I've given you, good causal relation, it's so simple. Why we are in such mess? Matlab, there are definitely more knowledgeable people in bank there, in the finance ministry, and they also understand it in much better clarity and detail. They have hands-on experience there. Why we are in mess? I am trying to make this as if there is no problem. Please try to understand there are structural issues. Again, in the concept videos, right from the time when the banks were nationalized, from the time of Indira Gandhi, there has been a chronic problem of government interference, right? So government interference in all kind, in terms of say corruption, what the crony capitalism, etc., where you wanted to give the loan to somebody, you were getting the cut, and you did not even bother if the economy was getting benefited with will this if I make you pay as a politician say 100 crore to XYZ company, right? And you see that the business started, okay, and this politician got some cut. Yeah, this is for your understanding. I'm not going to say that in interview. I'm just telling you the government intervention, you can say, not this part. Yeah, this is for your understanding. He gets his cut, 5-10% of it. He has made some 5-10 crore rupees, which will use to fund his next election. This bank here now, which has given this to XYZ, these guys need another 100 crore to sustain. Now, what will this bank do? It now needs no instruction from this politician. This 100 crore gone now. If it needs support of another 100 crore, this escalation of commitment now, you have made it fall into this quicksand. Now there is no other way to keep supporting this guys to come out of it. Only then there is hope of these banks to recover that money, and that is the structural problem. You force the bank to give money. It's not just only for corruption, even for say priority sector lending. There are times when the person, they are forced to achieve those target of say 40%, and within PSL also some agricultural loan targets, etc., they have to meet, and they know these are not credit worthy customers. Yeah, they still go. Of course, we have the idea of financial inclusion, etc., that we need to do. We have to bring more and more people under the gambit of say banking. We have to extend our loan. We have to, but yeah, there are customers you will have to accept who are not ready for loan. When they see loan, they treat it as it's their money, and that's where the problem happens with the public sector banks. So it's structural in nature, not just that. Yeah, mudra loans, I think it's going to come back and hit the banking system again very hard. That's my hunch. There are some reports already doing round. Yeah, you can read about it, uh, and you will see there is problem with mudra. So this forced lending actually is not a great idea. So what we need is, if we really want to solve the problem that the banks are facing, yeah. So all you have to say about all the story that I told you now, you have to say we need lesser government intervention. Government should not dictate who should get loan and at what rate, right? So let the RBI and the concerned bank decide that. Their boards, yeah, the bank board bureau which was made, it was a good initiative, but again not taken to its logical conclusion. These boards have to be made even stronger. They have to not just you know, be the say deciding factor for those large loans, but also they should review these, higher up performance. All your CMD levels and just below them, they are all handpicked by the government. If you will see, they are like the yes men of the government, and that is how their roji roti works. Yeah, it's of course about some amount of their caliber also, but there is a lot of it which goes because they are pro government. And it's again milli bhagat. Government intervenes. These guys who flatter their bosses in the government, they get promotion, and then that nexus, just like the crony capitalism, is very bad for the economy. So for bank to really perform well, you really need no government intervention. Yeah, some guidelines can be there. Okay, the boards have to be made stronger. Review the performance of the higher ups. Yeah, reward and punish. If somebody is making, give them good incentive. The kind of money that your Goldman Sachs say the CEO makes. What is our CMD's salary in comparison to that? Nothing, peanuts. Yeah, the Nirmala Sitharaman has talked about this risk officer. These guys are important when you're talking about lending money based repo rate or treasury bill is what you want to say associated with. Then you will need this risk officer to understand how the market, and this they are saying they will take from the market at the market rate. That's a good direction. So why not even your what happens when a risk officer starts getting more than the CMD? This will not be a healthy sign. So make board more powerful, give them more autonomy, make them more accountable. But yeah, let them select. Yeah, bank board bureau, they started selecting the CMDs, but give them more, give them authority to reward and punish the risk officer, etc. Make a risk board which monitors the situation, sees when things are going above board, and take corrective measures at that time itself. Yeah, all that is needed, but everything will start if we have this lesser government intervention. Yeah, this is only a dream that our banks are still facing. This can happen only when we go forward with, yeah, again in the budget there was some indication given. If my stakes, the government, they said they needed that 51% stake, but they said through other various government agencies, if they have controlling asset, why government alone also needs to have that more than 51% asset? So if that goes slowly, they start reducing it, yeah, some, and they give more power to the board, you will start seeing the change. But these are the structural issues, and that is why no matter how much you read about what happened to the NPAs, has the problem will resolved, and does it look likely that it will not continue further? No, it honestly, if you'll ask me, a lot of other things need to be done. Yeah, so what happens now with the bank manager, etc.? A company has created NPA, there is reduced trust. Now if you force me, first of all, if you don't force me as a bank manager, I'll not like to lend this unless I am corrupt, right? This forced lending will again lead to an NPA, right? Now these guys were anyways not trustworthy, you again government forced me, I lend it, and then again I have this problem, right? So this is one problem. Other problem is that reduced trust, I will anyways not lend. Again, that my cost, all the deposits that I have, even if I have enough money, I'm not able to generate any income out of it, right? So that is the situation of the bank. If you look at the current status of the bank and the economy in general, this is the summary. Again, the causal relationship I can establish for you. Joblessness is high. We know it's at what all-time higher. Before election they hit the data, but after that they came to know this like at a 45 years high. Consumption is low. People are postponing. Even Parle-G had problem in its consumption. Forget about Maruti and other auto sector. Yeah, credit-worthy people. What generally happen in this time when the sentiment is low? Credit-worthy people are not seeking credit, because if I have lost job, or if I have just sufficient amount of money to see me through this difficult phase, I'll not like to take loan, because I'll anyways have to pay interest. Now I am not interested. I am credit worthy. I might earn and pay, but I am not interested because I want to be very cautious. And other non-credit worthy people, banks are not ready, because they know if they lend them, it will become NPA. Unless pushed by the government, they will not be ready to lend. Yeah, something like a Mudra scheme or some scheme or some other scheme, they would really not like to lend. Now, industry not willing to expand production. Why? Because they are seeing At this time, there is reduced consumption. Also, there is policy uncertainty because auto sector, they talked about the electric vehicle. First, they said by 2030 they want to get rid of the road of all petrol. Now, just think about these manufacturers. What will happen to their showroom owners? Will they be stocking inventory? And I as a consumer, will I be thinking about, मेरे को पता है in 10 years time only electric vehicles will be there. I'll do with my current vehicle, 5 साल चला लेते हैं, we'll see what happens. The next government might change, or might prepone this thing. Yeah, so policy uncertainty is another problem. Reduced consumption. Now if the industries are not expanding, that means what? You have lesser job. Not expanding is it's little, on a higher side. They are even cutting down on the production. Maruti, they said they are reducing, say, production on couple of days. They are not doing any production, etc. So are you able to understand the mood of the economy? What I have done here, given you the entire causal relationship. I've also summarized the current mood. GDP at 5%. If I kind of conclude it here for you itself. The GDP at 5%. What is the reason? This, yeah, the current status: joblessness leading to low consumption, credit-worthy people not seeking credit, bank not ready to give to non-worthy credit. Now, industry policy uncertainty is faced by policy, and reduced consumption is there, and again further leading to job losses. Yeah, told you industry here, yeah, will produce only if it sees a rise in consumption, right? When it produces more, then the workers, they will get salary, and then they will consume more. You will see this is a vicious cycle. If it goes the wrong way, it can create problem. Lesser consumption, industry not ready to produce more because anyways nobody will consume. That means even lesser people will get job. Lesser people in the job means lesser money in the economy with the people to consume, and again that sentiment of pessimism continues. With this, investment will again further go down. But if we just break this cycle here, and that is what was mentioned in the economic survey, we have to increase we have to start with the investment. It has to be the investment led growth. You have to give, not this policy uncertainty, but encouragement to your industry that no, we will ensure that you don't face any problem. We'll give you loans at lesser rate. We'll ensure that the wheels of the economy gets moving, so that the consumption cycle, etc., moves, and then again the optimism in the economy comes. Yeah, please remember, the economy works with just two things. Yeah, the trust, which I talked about again in the prerequisite videos when I talked in detail about the money, and the second is expectation. Yeah, the expectation in the economy. This is very important. Yeah, the positive expectation, if it is not there, you will see the economy comes to a standstill. Right? So trust and expectation is what runs the economy. If it's just two things, if you ask me. Okay, I hope you have got the good picture about it. And let me just, I said I'll just conclude even that GDP 5% you have understood. There's another problem because of me having, say I'm out of job, etc. Whatever money I'm having, I'm not giving it to the banks. Yeah, I'm keeping it myself for some unforeseen circumstances. So if you see, even the deposits are getting low. Where was this deposit getting used? If banks had enough capital, these deposits were, as a percentage of my capital, I could lend. Now even my deposits are going low. So for attracting the deposit also, I'll have to pay higher interest. Are you seeing? This is the double whammy. It's going from bad to worse. So because of this pessimism in the economy, I'm having even lesser deposits now going to the bank. So even now, these deposit which would have turned into investment and the credit to the normal consumer, even that is not happening. Yeah. So overall gloom first can be broken. If you ask me how we can restructure this, these industries, the wealth creators, I think Modi ji talked about it. Wealth creators have to be encouraged. They have to be persuaded. They have to be given policy certainty, lower interest rate for their capital to be invested into, so that they can expand their capacity. They can hire more people. Once these people get hired, they will have money. They'll start consuming. Again, that sentiment will increase. Yeah. So these people who coming into the job will now become credit worthy because they have a job in their hand. Industry will be again further ready to expand. So this policy, uncertainty. This is not policy paralysis of the earlier era. This is over activism is causing the problem now. I hope you are getting the picture of it. So now you can also handle the question about the GDP at 5%. If you can tell them this causal relationship, which I hope you have understood in detail by now, you will make good impression. Okay. So even here, if you look at this, the lending hand I talked about, why the our government wants to create the bigger bank. Look at this, last fiscal 90,000 crore, this fiscal again 1.06 trillion, and these things have already happened, yeah, this much money, and still we saw we are nowhere, yeah, nowhere close to finding a resolution to the problem, and hence this drastic measure, along with that 5% growth that our economy is currently facing. So we needed this stronger bank, who we will challenge maybe to give loans for investment to the companies, to whom we will give say a good say confidence in terms of policy certainty, reduce some say maybe interest subvention if needed, to anything and everything to get this wheel of economy which seems at this point having gotten stuck somewhere, right? So now we can move to the rationale of clubbing. Why bank A got merged with B? Why not with D and E? Right? That's the rationale that we would like to understand. Again, this forms the part of understanding of the topic. So let me just take you through that. Uh, of course, the first one is very evident that the banks, one of the banks, the anchor banks, they were having better metric than the bank which has got attached to them, were having bad loans or weaker operating metrics. Beside, remember those green box that I talked about, to keep in mind the core banking solution, which software they are using, even that was taken into consideration. And of course, to create that national presence and global reach. National presence, if you remember, Indians, where did they meet? At Allahabad, right? So Indian Bank has strong South Indian presence, and Allahabad Bank North Indian presence. Now add them, they have pan India presence, right? So this has been seen in all the mergers, all the four anchor banks. If you will see, they now have a all overall national presence, yeah. And since their size is increased, they can also reach out globally. And of course, the government has infused capital to the anchor bank so that this transition does not sacrifice the growth. So some money which will be taken, some erosion of capital because of these banks, yeah, this should not hamper. For one time, let me give you some capital, continue with your growth story, yeah, and then don't come back to me. That is my understanding of it. Okay, so you remember this I had shown you, yeah, this CBS. Look at this Finacle. These three were on Finacle, on iFlex, Canara Bank and Syndicate Bank. Again, Finacle, this was Union Bank of India, Andhra and Corporation Bank, and BNCS, this was Indian Bank and Allahabad Bank. Yeah. So this part was also considered along with creating a national presence. Yeah. And okay, here we come to the opinion-based question, the third part. Yeah. So first, your fact checking is done, your understanding is done, and now I want to see your opinion. Yeah. What are the benefits that you can think of merger? That could be a question, right? So what comes to your mind? Of course, we have already seen reduce cost, operational efficiency, and then I told you I'll be telling you how that operational efficiency will lead to reduce cost. This is it. How you remove the overlap. Yeah. So suppose in one of the prime properties in Mumbai, if there is a bank of say Allahabad Bank and Indian Bank both at the same place, they will just close down one. A lot of saving in the rent. Yeah, that's how the operational cost can be reduced. And there will be several such branches, right, where they will be in like a walking vicinity of each other. That's something euphemistically called as branch rationalization, wherein they mean to say the redundant branch will either they will be closed or rationalized. So that's branch rationalize. For me, understanding it is they will close the redundant branches. That's branch rationalization for me, right? Enter new branches, yeah, the new market. Now if you will see the Allahabad Bank, they did not have anything in the say South India. Similarly, your Indian Bank did not have anything in the North India, significant presence. But now with so many banks in North India, they can directly enter with the local expertise of the people working in North India, right? So this is a kind of direct go for Indian bank, for which if they wanted to do it organically, they would have incurred more cost, right? So again, this is a saving and the benefit. Ability to absorb shock and raise money independently, I have already dealt with in great detail. So that is the idea about the benefits of making it. The reduced cost because of the operational efficiency by removing overlap, removing redundancies, entering new market with having that ability to enter it with the local presence there, that is giving you the pan India presence. That is also the idea about going for this merger, and then of course ability to absorb shock and raise capital independently. Yeah, these are the benefits. Okay, so having taken care of the benefit, what will be the next question? What are the challenges? Yeah, so if I look at the challenges, again, this is time consuming process. Look at the SBI, look at your Dena Bank. Even after the process is done, still there are some challenges with these banks face. Initial costs can go up. A lot of VRS have to be given. Yeah, you would have heard about there is no job losses, but even if you go back and see how many job losses were actually there in terms of VRS, and they find their ways. Of course, they do not want to say it upfront because there will be union challenges. So they really do not want to talk about it. You also don't get into it. You can just say it mildly that there can be some challenges with the union. But yes, and hence Nirmala Sitharaman has said it very explicitly, there will be no job losses. Administrative issues is not very simple to bring two organizations together. The IT part, yeah, they have taken care of putting the same platform, the same software. But even say Finacle 7 and 10 has its own complication. Are they really working on same software at the which are using the same versions? Yeah, that can also be challenged. Merging the balance sheet, it's nightmare for all these CAs, etc. Difference of culture. Just think about the HR of Indian Bank running the show. Someone from South India now has absolute power and is treating all the Allahabad Bank HR, because you guys were anyways, maybe he'll not say that, but because of your position, that means you guys were corrupt. Your ex CEO and Usha Ananta Subramaniam has kind of set really bad name for you, etc., and they're kind of not treating them at par with them. What kind of cultural fit that be? Will there not be friction between the merged entities? So these can create a lot of problems. These looks very simple on paper, Indian Bank, Allahabad Bank much. But the real challenge, on ground level, there are got to be a lot of work. The GM level people, they have to meet, they have to sort out these issues. Their HR have to work together, and to make a flawless, seamless transition. A lot of work needs to get done. Yeah, and here that two-state theory can also happen. The North and South culture, they have different style of working. The Allahabad Bank already accumulated a lot of bad name. They have different style. These can create challenges, not just for Allahabad Indian Bank, I'm saying, but for the other merged entities also. And then finally, hassles to customer. Yeah, I'll again talk about it in detail. But yes, some people are emotionally attached to their bank. I know people who have never operated in anything other than, say, State Bank. It could be true with Syndicate Bank. It could be true with Canara Bank. So all those banks which have lost the identity, it may be becoming very emotional for customer. Not just the emotional aspect, I'll also tackle what other problems the customers will face. IFSC code definitely will change. There can be new ATM card which is given, new account number might be given. If they are doing a lot of online transaction, RTGS, NEFT, they will have to again re-enter their details. Going forward, branch rationalization, I told you, because some branches are getting closed. मेरे घर के सामने वाला branch got closed, I'll have to walk 2 kilometers. I'll not be very pleased with that. So all that will happen, but yeah, eventually the government has said that it will happen. So 1st April 2020, you will see these merged entities for sure. Yeah, but yes, this is for your interview preparation. I have given you enough pointers. I've tried to explain you with a lot of example, try to clear your concepts. I've given you enough talking points in interview so that you face them with confidence. So other possible questions here, yeah, some of them can just stop you there. So you are saying merger. Is this merger, acquisition, amalgamation? I get confused. What is it actually? You ask me honestly, this is a lot of confusion. I kept reading about it. I'll give you my part of it if someone asks me, is merger or amalgamation. Merger is between two entities getting combined and forming something new. Yeah, the identity of both, no, they cannot be distinguished here. Whereas in amalgamation, it says the larger, the stronger one will, take the smaller ones, but at the same time you will find some say cultural essence, some working style, something will be there. They are not completely lost. So for me, this is more an amalgamation. Even if you go back and look at the Bank of Baroda's website, it will always talk about the amalgamation. Yeah, so don't get tricked there. Say, sir, I tried to read about it. It is, the definition is not clear. In fact, the word merger and amalgamation do not even feature in the Companies Act. I think amalgamation is very loosely defined in I think income tax laws. That's the current situation. And if you read different your CAs, they have different take on it. It's very funny. But for me, if you can say this to your interviewer, for me, merger is when the two entities combine to form a new one, whereas amalgamation is a larger one, takes care of it basically assimilates the smaller one into it. And for me, technically, this is amalgamation. Yeah, you can say that. It's my understanding. Let them take a call on it. If you want to do some more research, you can do, but spend, I think, at more than 2 hours on it. I did not really find a concrete answer to it. Yeah, did RRBs also merger? They can ask you in context of merger, how many mergers happened recently. What are the current number of RRBs? What is the future plan of how many RRBs will finally be there as per the roadmap that the finance ministry has? History of banking problems, subsequent resolutions. I think you can get into it. Which committee has suggested what reforms? All these I think you can get prepared with. Yeah, I'll suggest you to do that. Okay. Moving forward, some of you I'm quite sure will ask what are other topics. We will not be able to take all these 20 that I have mentioned. I have mentioned them under economy, state, international, environment. 5 year PSB merger, I have taken you through GDP slowdown. I think these two are now done. You can sufficiently handle. Mudra also I have given you hint here. Let me see if I'll get time to make it. Yeah, this should not be more. RBI 1.76 lakh crore. What has government done it? The technicality of it will be really difficult. Yeah, so spend some time if you really want to answer the question on it. Yeah, understand it thoroughly. This is not very simple. How that money will be given, how this has been generated, how this will affect the balance sheet of RBI. This is a little technical. Yeah, if you ask me, the most technical topic is this. If they really get into it, it's very simple. 1.7 lakh crore, some goes into recapitalization, some goes in some scheme, and it's a very simple. This is resulting out of the revaluation reserve. They start getting into detail of it, it's very complex. Yeah, NBFC crisis, you have to read about all the the problem which is faced, all the auditing agencies, what their role, all that. Article 370, I don't have to tell this. I think most of you will already be prepared. But get prepared again, not from the point of supporting the current government or dissenting the current government, but from the point of the interviews. Just look at the fact, detach your emotions from these. It becomes very difficult, trust me, on these controversial topic. So stick to the point, take down your notes, get the talking point. The session that I've done for you is to give an example about how do I prepare about all these topics. Motor Vehicle Amendment Act, I'm quite sure this should be asked, right? NRC in Assam, yeah, what is the motive? Is it do I have really ulterior motive as Mamta Banerjee claims? Everything. Just read everything about it. How it has been implemented, how many phases it happened, how many people got left out, what were the conditions for it, all that other important. Okay, then also read about other important bills. More than I think 26 bills were passed here. Yeah, 26 plus. Just read about. I've just taken UAPA as an example. There are other amendments on POSCO, etc. More stringent punishments. Read all that. Yeah, all the important bills. Not in great detail. Just have. They can say the Parliament had most productive, one of the most productive seasons this time. Can you tell me name of 5 bills which got passed? Yeah, something like that. So from that point of view, Amazon forest fire, of course, you should know about it, where it is, which countries, why Brazil is only blamed for it, what is happening, is Bolsonaro really responsible for it? People against him are plotting against him. Just get an overview of everything. U.S.-China trade war, who started what is the current status, how much is under the tariff, what is the likelihood of how it is going forward. G7 summit, why was India called, what was its role there, what were the things that it has contributed, what it has talked about, what are the issues raised by India, what is the current problem in the Hong Kong, why there is this protest, those human chain that they're talking about, what is the protest in Russia about the local election happening there, why people are protesting. Chandrayaan 2, I think all of you would have followed it. That should not be a problem. Water stress, I think you should do a little more deeply. All of you must be knowing about Chennai facing the crisis. All other metro cities are in line and waiting. There is some report also on water stress. Just look for it, where it talks about Chandigarh being one of the highest depleter of the groundwater. Data security, as I told you, is again always evergreen topic. Yeah. Uh, how much our data is really safe with, say, Facebook and other companies. Plastic pollution, it's like Narendra Modi ji has already talked about spreading a war. Chhedna hai hame plastic ke against, single use plastic needs to be banned. Most of the people are taking cognizance of it. Marine animal having facing a lot of difficulty, and it's not good. Honestly, I think we should all take pledge to not use single use plastic. And finally, climate change is again evergreen, melting ice caps everywhere. So just read in detail about all this topic. We'll see how many we can cover for you. Yeah, but all these will be interesting. I think you will see they're all very relevant. So just spend some time on it. I think it will. Okay, so having seen the academic part, let me get to something else, which I have again seen on our Facebook group. People are already getting anxious about it. So let's see. Let me try to address it in my way. Will there be job losses because of these mergers? Okay, so we have clear statement from our finance minister. She will definitely have more credibility than I, you, and everyone else combined. Whoever is preparing for these examination and all the faculties of all the institute put together, finance minister's word has to be taken seriously here, and hence there will not be any job losses. Right now, there are critics. I think I read this in Hindu paper, so I'll just write it. They might be just to assuage the concerns of the union, so that they do not create problem during the merger, and as soon as the merger is complete, they might start eliminating. Trust me, there will be VRS. So all the redundant people will be asked to leave. Definitely the senior most people. The junior, your level, you do not really have problem. Even the senior, they get golden handshake. They get enough in their voluntary retirement. So even they don't have anything to worry about. You will be placed somewhere in the new branches, the expansion plans of the bank. You will be absorbed. That is my understanding, and trusting my FM here. Okay, the next question will be: will there be any change in vacancy in upcoming year? Job losses? No. But will it create problem in the vacancy in upcoming years? Difficult to predict. Honestly, I'll not try to paint a rosy picture here. It's very difficult. Consolidation is likely to happen by 2020. Looking at the timelines which I showed you, what happened with the say Bank of Baroda and SBI, yeah, all of them they completed by 1st April, and that's when the new balance sheet, etc., and PNL, etc., got made. So it will definitely depend upon the future plans. They can reduce, but generally probationary officers are needed. Every branch they want to make, and my understanding of banking is they had at a ward level, then they reduce it to what some everywhere where there is population of 5,000. Current mandate. You can just check this. These are all unofficial things. This is not interview question. I think the current mandate is in and around 2,500 people wherever there are. There should be a commercial PSU there. So that is the idea. So with that, I think there is further scope of branch. The more the branches will be created, more branch managers will be needed, more POs will be needed going forward. So honestly, I don't see any change here in terms of vacancies, and that you can see even with the prior merging of, say, state banks, etc. Has it really created any problem? Yeah, so I hope I have addressed your concern. You got the academic part. You are settled even emotionally. Nothing is going to happen. Things will be good. You can continue preparing for your bank exams. Yeah, I'm not saying this to just keep our business running. Yeah, you can assure. I told you, I'm going by the words of our finance minister. So with that, I'll end here. I hope you have sufficient masala and then also a lot of homework to do with all the topics that I told you about. Start preparing more. These are the most likely topic. Of course, anything and everything about SBI. This I mentioned even in those pre-recorded, in the edited videos from the IBPS. Anything and everything about SBI, you should be thorough with all the schemes that they have come up with. All everywhere they are in news in any state because of any new app, any new services they have launched. You should be thorough with it. Yeah, just ensure that. Okay, so I'll try to again see you very soon. Let me see how soon it is going to be with one of the 20 topics that I have shown you. Two of course is covered now. Let me see what I can do more. Thank you very much. Keep preparing. I'll see you soon.